Hey guys, we're back for another scary no-sleep story. This one was written by Reddit user Kiki_kitten, and the title is, I always work the closing shift at Pizza Hut by myself. Last night someone found out I was alone. Pizza Hut has been that one of the best and worst jobs I've ever had. I'll start with the reasons why it's been good before jumping right into the bad stuff. It's gonna make explaining what happened to me last night a lot easier if you have a little backstory. For a business that constantly reminds me how cheap it is, it pays me well enough as an assistant manager. The work is typically repetitive and simple, and my days there usually melt together as it's more or less the same routine every day. Deal with customers, make pizzas, make some wings. Call the Pepsi company and complain our order is late for the third time in a row. There's the odd time when things get tense, when we get angry customers every few days, but every workplace that deals with customer service gets those. Thankfully, it never usually takes more than a free pizza or a credit on their next order to make them happy again. For the past 11 months, I have been the restaurant's main closer. My shifts never change from 4 to 11 or 4 to 12 on Fridays and Saturdays. Once in a while, I'll get scheduled for 10 to 6 or 11 to 7 shift if one of our openers is sick, but that's pretty rare. However, it does happen. Since I live in such a small town, my Pizza Hut only deals with takeout and delivery orders. There's no dine-in area at all, except a couple of bar tables and stools by the main entrance for people to wait for their orders. The front lobby of the restaurant is tiny, and the kitchen is no exception. The entire back area is pretty much one big room, with a little area behind a wall in the back that doubles as the prep table and office. There is no break room or other employee bathroom. We do have one bathroom in the front for the customers, right next to the pop cooler by the entrance to the kitchen. Now that you know a little bit about how the restaurant looks and runs, I'll move on to why it isn't a very good place to work at the best of times. First off, I'm one of the only 5 people that work there. My boss and 2 of the other employees are contract workers from India, so English isn't their first language. They never talk in English when it's just me and them, so I'm always a little out of the loop. My other coworker works only part-time since she's still in high school. So with her there, only a few hours a week, I spend the majority of my time working without talking too much. It can get pretty lonely, to be honest. Now, a little bit about me. I just turned 20. I'm a smaller female, and I live about 10 minutes away from my job. That's 10 minutes walking one way. I don't have a car, or even my license. This typically doesn't bother me, but it does get kind of scary when I'm walking home after midnight. Thankfully, the walk to my house is in a pretty good part of town, and I've yet to run into any real issues. Other than the language barrier between me and most of my coworkers, the only real problem comes from the night shifts. Since one person is fully capable of doing all the closing duties, I'm left there by myself from 8 p.m. onwards. This means that I have to answer the phones, help the customers, and make all the pizzas. It's not usually busy, so I never have a problem, unless the odd time where I get 4 or 5 orders at once. But I'm a really fast cook, so I can usually get them all made and in the oven within a minute, and a half of the order being taken. The real problem with being alone on closing shifts explains it within this very sentence. I'm there all alone. It can be kind of spooky sometimes. If there's someone weird that comes in, anyone could rob me, hurt me, and there would be no way and no one there to help. I've talked to my boss about my concerns, but he always dismisses me, saying I'm a phone call away if you need my help. We should not have to pay a second person to do your job. What an asshole. Last night, I worked with my usual clothes. Since it was Sunday, I had to stay until 11, but felt like I was there for hours and hours more. Last night, my fears of what would happen when I was alone came true. My shift went normally for most of the day. By the time 8 p.m. rolled around, I had said goodbye to the morning crew and had already started on the closing checklist. Weird stuff started happening around 9:30. I was making dough in the back, taking my time, and, there wasn't much else to do. I heard the beep boop of the doorbell, and automatically, I spun around. Looking up at the TV displaying real-time footage of the front lobby, I stared at it for a few seconds, confused. The front was empty, and I could not see anyone outside the window. Convinced I had imagined it, I carried on with my dough. I greased and oiled 5 more pans, finishing the stack. I stacked them on top of one another and picked them up, turning them around to check the camera again before I carried the dough into the walk-in cooler. My heart leaped painfully into my chest, and I fumbled with the stack, nearly dropping them all on the floor. A man was standing in the lobby, peering into the kitchen. At once, I set the pans down, wiping my hands on my apron before I ran out to greet him. He had shocked me, but I got over it quickly. I figured he must have been standing in the blind spot last time I checked the camera. The spot where I used to hide when taking extra breaks, so my boss couldn't see what I was doing. "Hi there," I called out as I walked over. "Sorry about that. I didn't see you come in. What would you like to order?" "I didn't see you come in." The man repeated my words. "I didn't see you come in." I stood still for a second, not knowing what to say. I was getting a really bad vibe from this guy already, and as he spoke, it got worse. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself with little success that I was just being silly. The man looked average enough, despite being very, very dirty. He was tall and looked older than my dad, but he was dressed rather strangely. He was wearing a shiny light blue dress shirt tucked into gray-stained sweatpants. His sweatpants were tucked into his socks. His hair was greasy and combed to the side. His pockets were stuffed with what appeared to be all the mints I had in the jar near the menus. He smelled like he hadn't showered in weeks. "Can I take your order?" I asked again, but my voice lacked questioning. It sounded more like a timid statement, and I wondered what the guy's problem was. It took a long time, but finally he ordered a small pepperoni pizza with 8 boneless wings. I rang up the order quickly, happy he finally said something. I couldn't help notice the way his mouth moved when he talked. It went just straight up and down like a doll. He didn't have any teeth, and his breath nearly made me gag. "I'll have your order ready in 10 minutes, I said, placing his change on the table. I thanked him again and walked into the kitchen, wishing there was a door instead of just an empty frame leading into the kitchen. I didn't want him to get curious and look inside again. his pizza. Before I got started on it, I checked the camera again, feeling a little bit better when I saw the man sitting at the bar table, reading what looked like a menu from the front counter. Convinced he was just not all there and most likely homeless, I ignored my gut feeling that something was very wrong and prepared the order. I had the pizza in the oven in under 30 seconds. I dropped his wings in the basket and set the timer on the fryer. 6 minutes to kill before they're ready. I took this opportunity to check my phone. I picked it up just in time. I was receiving a call from my friend Lana. "Hey," I said on the phone. "You caught me as I'm just taking a break in a few minutes. What's up?" "Hurry up and just be done with work," Lana cried, sounding irritated. "I'm so bored." "1 more hour," I said, glancing at the clock. 10 p.m. I was startled by this and felt like I had just looked at the clock. Half an hour had gone by since the man had come in. "Lana, you should walk over and pick me up," I said in a low voice. "There's this weirdo here, and he's giving me the creeps." "Are you alone again?" Lana asked, sounding concerned. "Yeah," I mumbled into the phone. I tried to talk to my boss about it, but he never does anything. "Anyway, I'll see you in a bit." I hung up the phone just as the fryer timer started to beep. The wings were done. I threw my phone into my bag and walked around the corner to the main part of the kitchen. I sauced the wings and cut the pizza, carrying the order to the front while looking forward to see the man leave. I looked out and felt my knees grow weak again. The front was empty. The stool the man had been sitting on was jutted out. The menu he was reading was on the ground. This completely freaked me the fuck out. I hadn't heard the doorbell, so he couldn't have left. My eyes drifted over to the bathroom door. The handle button was horizontal, meaning that it was locked from the inside. This made me feel a little bit better. He was just in the bathroom after all. I stood at the till, aimlessly looking through stuff as I waited for him to come out so I could give him his order. I looked down at the bottom of the screen for the time. 10:15 p.m. 10:21 p.m. 10:34 p.m. He had been in there for a good half an hour before I mustered up the courage to knock on the door. "Everything all right in there?" I called out. At once I could hear shuffling as I startled him. I backed up, preparing for him to come out, but then the shuffling stopped. But he didn't open the door. I walked closer again, raising my fist to bang on the door again when I heard a click. The door had unlocked. 10:40 p.m. I was at a loss for what to do. I had grown very paranoid, and now I knew something was wrong. But at the same time, I couldn't just stand there and wait for something to happen. It was 20 minutes to close, and I still had a few things to do. I braced myself to open the door and deal with it when I heard him whispering, "1 more hour. 1 more hour, Lana." I jumped back like I had been burned. He was recycling my words again, from earlier when I was on the phone, but I was in the back of the kitchen behind the wall. There's no way he could have heard me, unless he had crept back there and listened in. I backed away from the door and grabbed the phone, dialing my boss's number. My hand shook as I struggled to press the buttons. Bright lights suddenly distracted me, and I looked up to see a car pulling into the parking lot. I thanked God as 2 people got out and walked towards the restaurant holding hands. However, seconds before they could open the door, the bathroom creaked open. My heart pounded as I looked over. not sure what I should prepare myself to see. The man looked the same as before, however, except covered in sweat, and he was panting like a dog. His hair was sticking up everywhere like he was pulling on it. Beep, beep. The couple walked in, looking curiously at the giant menu a few feet over my head. As I turned to look at them, the man suddenly leaped forward, making me scream and jump back. But he didn't touch me. He grabbed his order sitting on the counter, then bolted out. And I mean bolted. He ran like someone was trying to kill him, across the highway, into the neighborhood, and beyond. The relief I felt when he finally gone was explainable. I was nearly laughing when I took the customer's order, so dizzy I could hardly keep it together. I rang in what they wanted and raced back to prepare my last order of the night. 10:52 p.m. With the customers in front, I felt comfortable enough to look out the windows and make sure the man had not returned. It was dark, but I could see well enough. And after a good few minutes of checking things out, I decided it was safe enough to say he was gone for good. I was also starting to wonder where the hell Lana was, and hoped she hadn't run into him. 10:57 p.m. I brought out the customer's order and they thanked me, leaving no tip, but I wasn't expecting one after they saw me scream when the man grabbed his order. As soon as they drove away, I turned off the open sign and raced to the back to grab my things. I put on my jacket and went to the back to turn off the computer, realizing I had forgot to check the bathroom to make sure the man hadn't done anything weird in there. I dismissed the thought. I wasn't going to spend any more time here than I needed to. I've had enough for today. The computer made a few beeping sounds as the entire system shut down, and the light above me went out like it's supposed to. The only thing now was the security camera. I glanced up at it, hoping to see Lana walking over, but something bothered me about what I saw. The front was empty and dark, but I could still see the shapes of shadows and such. There was no one inside but me. I used the master switchboard next to the computer to turn the front light on, and I nearly had a heart attack. The man was standing there outside the glass, not moving, and staring right at me. It's hard for me to remember everything that happened next, but I can recall running into the walk-in cooler and locking myself in as I called the police from my cell phone. I remember crying as I tried to recall to them what exactly had happened. They drove me home, promised to keep a lookout for him, but that didn't make me feel much better. I felt like they didn't entirely believe me, but I was kind of expecting that. I went to work early the next morning, still terribly paranoid, even though it was the middle of the day with lots of people around. I was going to tell my boss I couldn't work nights anymore, starting now. There was no way I'd put myself through that again. I opened the door and my coworker gave me a grim look, looking not at all pleased as he motioned for me to look over at the bathroom door. It was covered in caution tape with a giant sign that read, "Out of order." I asked everyone I worked with what happened in there, but no one gave me a straight answer. I'll never know how to fully explain what happened last night. I feel somewhat safe knowing I won't have to work alone ever again. But the one thing that has been bothering me since it happened, Lana walked here to pick me up, and that man was outside. I've been calling her all day, but each time it just goes right to voicemail. Update. Hi everyone. I've been reading all your comments, and I've been answering them the best I can. Now I'm going to give the answers to your two main questions. What happened in the bathroom, And what happened to Lana? I was hoping to get a concrete answer about what was found in the bathroom, but it's growing apparent that it may be a while before someone tells me just what exactly was discovered, if they ever tell me at all. I got most of the information out of my boss, who talked to me for a long time today about the other night's events. He ended up looking over the security footage when the man was in the restaurant and went over with me what he said I saw. He told me he watched the man sneak into the back when I was on the phone, getting very, very close to me. He said if I hadn't done so much as turn around, I would have saw him. I was told there had been paper towels stuffed into the toilet, the entire roll by the sounds of it. The cardboard cylinder was found stepped on the floor. I didn't see anything too strange about this, and I asked why everyone was being so quiet about it. I was told afterwards there had been blood covering the paper towels. There was smeared, bloody handprint on the toilet seat, and I don't know what to make of this. I don't understand where the blood came from. There's another factor that's being left out of everyone's explanations, and I'm hoping that once this settles over, people will give me the last piece of the story. I have a feeling that they aren't telling me for my own good. Blood and wet towels everywhere is disturbing enough, though. Lana has finally made contact with me. However, it wasn't the kind of contact I was hoping for, but at least it's something for now. I got a text from her a little over half an hour ago. It read, "Sorry, 9, I missed your call." I don't like that text. It doesn't sound like her. Lana's the type of girl that uses exclamation points in every message, and always uses proper grammar and capitalization. That aside, I just think it's a weird thing to say. I called her tons of times, not just one call. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I'm getting so paranoid that I can't help it. I'm walking to her house after I post this. I really hope it's just paranoia that's making me so worried.